What lessons did the Panthers learn from being on one side of a beatdown in last year's Stanley Cup final to this year's? We'll discuss that and more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
Your Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Wednesday, June 11th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at MondoMan12. That is Jacob Winans here for another edition of Winans Wednesday. You can follow him on X at Jacob Winans8. Shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. On today's show, we are going to discuss what lessons the Panthers learned from last year's Stanley Cup final, being on one side of a beatdown. Now that they are on the other, on the winning side of it, we're going to discuss where the Panthers compare to certain teams in NHL history when it comes to their style of play, and we're also going to discuss in segment number 3 a little bit of a panic on the other side based on the practice schedule. And so sit back, relax as we discuss all this on today's edition of the show. So Jacob, welcome back to the show. And I want to get your opening thoughts on just the Panthers being in this position up 2-1.
Yeah, it's definitely a position that you can't really plan for in a series against Edmonton. I don't think anyone really expected them to kind of take control the way they did in that game 3, but it's a familiar position too. They are no stranger to leading a series. They're no stranger to the ups and downs that come with that. And Edmonton's a veteran team. They're gonna put their best forward in the next game, but I think this is exactly where the Panthers want to be. They took home ice. They now have a series lead and another home game. That is a position that anyone would envy right now.
No doubt. And whether you're the team that blew another team out, or whether you're on the receiving end, or whether you lose in overtime or win in overtime, there's no aggregate when it comes to the Stanley Cup final. It just comes down to one game at a time for each of these teams. And the question that was surrounding was whether it's an aberration or a sign of things to come. Paul Maurice discussed that he expects the game 4 to be more similar than games 1 and 2. I mean, yeah, that's putting a little bit of respect on the opponent, but like you said, Edmonton's a veteran group, and you expect a better kind of game. I mean, Paul Maurice even spoke about how game 5 for the Panthers was some of the best game. I know they were down multiple goals, and they had a little bit of a comeback right before that empty netter that Tkachuk swiped out of the net before Connor McDavid eventually scored on it. But it's funny because I thought I was being original when it came to discussing the situation last year after game 4 and then wanting to ask Paul Maurice about it. The way I phrased the question was, what did he learn? What did they learn about their character? And he actually dismissed when it came to their character of what they learned, but he discussed more about expecting their best. And he was talking about how he had not necessarily a Stanley Cup winning speech ready, but just about getting ready for a moment of how the other team is going to come out, and the fact that last year's team only had 2 Stanley Cup winners while nobody else had that experience yet. So they don't know what it's like to be in a situation where they're about to clinch the cup. This time around, it's a little different, where not only are you on the winning end, but you're just worried about taking care of home ice. So the mindset is so much different when it comes to those two, but there's a little bit of still that compare and contrast.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about that mindset and kind of now being in a position where they're so close that you can start to feel it, and you can sort of see the light at the end of the tunnel right now. They were there last year, and I think in Game 4 last season they got a little bit too ahead of themselves, got thrown way out of their game. I think the excitement of being right there on the doorstep, that played into it, and then also just seeing a team that was at peak desperation in that moment. I don't think they were ready for it. I don't think you're going to catch them by surprise that way this season. I think they know how to slam the door shut on a series like that, and how to finish a Stanley Cup final. So they've definitely earned that experience, but I don't think anyone even really has their sights set on that right now, because when being two games away is a lot different from being one game away, and it has to be business as usual right now when you're 2 games away. I don't think you change anything about the preparation. You don't change anything about the mentality. We know they know very well how close, but how far 2 games can be.
Oh yeah,
it's a very long way to go. So I don't think anyone's getting ahead of themselves right now, but I do think you're going to see a little bit more of an experienced and measured Panthers team to close out a series, or at least attempt to, than what you saw last year in the final.
No doubt. And yeah, I mentioned the fact that there's 2 days off in between games 3 and 4, while there's no travel in between. And Paul Maurice even spoke about earlier today about how they prefer the rhythm over the rest. But then he spoke about how the guys coming up from the Four Nations tournament, they were right there, ready to just go. But the fact is that the Panthers at that point had so much mileage and not a lot of rest in between, about how sometimes that could be a benefit and sometimes that could work to your detriment for them as well. So, I mean, the fact that they didn't take the ice. They didn't take the ice today, but just the media availability, they'll be taking the ice tomorrow for an 11 a.m. Practice. So I think it's just really about how they handle the day. That's really the mindset that they've discussed mostly, and a lot of the film breakdown that they discussed was talk about more of the 5-on-5 stuff. Obviously, you're not going to see 140 minutes worth of penalties. You're not going to see 17 power plays total in between 2 teams in Game 4. So they were able to go back to the film and just look about what they did at 5-on-5, and the fact that the Panthers are continuing to play well in that front, especially Alexander Barkov, which we don't give him enough credit for, even though he doesn't put the points up for him. I think that and Sergei Bobrovsky, his save percentage is at a 957 at 5-on-5 in this series. There's been a lot of goals, but we also got to consider the high shot volume from the first 3 games on him getting to that level. And it's kind of throwing me back to the 2023 conference final against Carolina, where he went that 55 of 55 in Game 1 right before the quadruple overtime in that winner. So you keep this game 5-on-5, you're in good shape once again for the Panthers.
Yeah, I think that's where they can really sort of take control for the rest of this series. I think we talked about the Panthers forward depth coming into this, and how Edmonton definitely improved on that front, but I don't think it quite matches up to what the Panthers are able to deploy with the forward group. And you start to really see that kind of wear a team down over the course of the series. And I think on the flip side of that, it's a little bit of throw everything at Bob and hope you break him. But if the Panthers are able to keep this at 5-on-5, or at least have the power play perform at a rate that you can nullify a little bit of Edmonton's power play dominance, where if you give up a power play goal to Edmonton, you can get that back, and it's a break even, and now it's back to whoever wins the 5-on-5 game. I think the Panthers at 5-on-5, they're really hard to match. And then you look at Edmonton's lineup right now. They're struggling on defense. They have a middle pair of Nurse and Klingberg that's really, really struggling. Evan Bouchard struggling again right now in his own zone, which is taking a little bit away from his offense. And if you keep him off the power play, he can be not ineffective, but less effective. And I think you're also sort of seeing the struggle that Knoblauch is having, where it's like, can we keep McDavid and Draisaitl together at the expense of the rest of the lineup? Because Nugent Hopkins is way below 100% right now. It's very clear he's dealing with something.
He's not even taking faceoffs.
He's not taking faceoffs, and if you noticed, he missed a wide open net yesterday, and just I can't believe the shot he took there. He completely missed a wide open net. His passes aren't really connecting. He's struggling to stick handle. I think it seems to be something upper body, maybe a hand issue or an arm or something like that. So he's not as effective right now. The rest of the lineup is struggling, and when you have to put Draisaitl, McDavid, and Perry together to generate offense, the rest of the roster is having a tough time. So if the Panthers can continue to wear down the forward group, I think at 5-on-5, advantage Florida. And then, like you said, Bob is in a groove. And I think when you talk about the high shot volume, it almost feels like that's what he wants.
Yeah.
He's seeing a lot of pucks. He's seeing a lot of pucks. He's active. He's having to play on his toes the whole time. When we've seen Bob struggle, it's usually been in situations where he's not seeing many pucks at all. And we could have a stretch of 10 shots on goal to 1 or 2, and then he gets beat by one that he probably should have, but it's just because he's inactive for so long. If he's seeing a lot of pucks, that's usually when he's in his rhythm and on his game.
Yeah, I remember during last year's playoff run, everyone was saying, "Oh, Bob's save percentage is really low. He's not saving as many as at a high rate as he should. He's not." And when he does get those rare opportunities, they're scoring on him, so he's not being as effective. Oh, the Florida Panthers are suppressing the shots. Whatever. The GAA, yes, GAA has a lot to do with the amount of shots you face, but still. You gotta give credit to the Panthers and what they did, especially in last year's, and the fact that he's still stepping up with the high shot volume. Big credit to him on what he's doing. He could play low shots, high amount, any for him. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where the Panthers are somewhat in the history books for what they have done in this current playoff run, and we're going to discuss that and also a Edmonton Oilers player has been fined not once but twice for his antics in Game 3. We'll discuss that next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. And are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to keep you feeling fuller longer. Plus, I love the no-shells variety. It's a perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days, whether I'm stuck at my desk, a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost. They're always my go-to. If you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. And sometimes I like being at a traffic light, having my Wonderful Pistachios right in my cup holder. So if I'm at a red light, I could just reach over and grab a little bit of a munch there. Don't need to do any pit stops whatsoever. And it's truly helpful in these long drives to and from the practice facilities. So get snacking and cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Segment number 2 here on this Wednesday, June 11th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. Armando Velez here with Jacob Winans. And Jake Wallman got fined not only once, but twice for his antics during Game 3. This one I did not see as well from my view from the auxiliary press box. I did not see the cup check for Matthew Tkachuk there. I saw him drill into the wall. I'm like, okay, he got fined for that. And then I saw the replay again. I'm like, oh, that's what he did. And then the squirting of the water bottle, it kind of threw me back to Jamie Benn, something that he's done in the past. And David Dwork and I had a little bit of a bonding moment from this might have been before your time, Jacob. There's a movie that came out in the mid-'90s, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie. Where the adults were taken over by Ivan's ooze. Fred used the hose in order to get them back from jumping over the cliff. So that's a little bit of a throwback moment that David and I had there. So just a little bit of that. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, this may surprise you, but even though it was a little before my time, I was a huge Mighty Morphin fan. I was a big Mighty Morphin Power Rangers fan, and I used to play the old Mighty Morphin game on the SNES, the Super Nintendo. that might surprise you, but no, I thought a little surprised that Wallman got hit with the double fine, but it definitely warranted. The water bottle, it's childish antics. Greer got under his skin, ripped the glove off, tossed it in the bench, and Wallman lost his cool. Wallman has been a little bit more of a vocal presence, if we want to put it that way. He's been yapping a lot throughout the series. Game 1, getting in Nosek's face after the delay of game, and then it seems he's got something to say after every whistle. But that's what the Panthers want. If you can throw Wallman off his game, have him lose his cool, the cup check, the spear to Tkachuk, I think probably gets him a one game if this is regular season. They usually don't have much tolerance for that, but given that it's a cup final, I can understand them going easy on him with just a fine. Yeah, it's pretty rare. You don't usually see guys double fined in any situation. So I think he's definitely on high alert now. I mean, if he crosses any lines for the rest of the series, he's definitely getting a game. So I'm happy that they cracked down on it. I thought there definitely could have been more fines that came out of that game. In a regular season game, there would definitely be a suspension or two from that. But yeah, overall, I think it's just a sign of the fact that the Panthers are living rent free in a few guys' head, and Wallman is one of them. And poor Brian Boucher in between the bench, trying to keep his equipment dry and banging on the glass, telling him to stop squirting the water bottle. It's a tough position to be in. I don't envy him.
Yeah, and Jake Wallman, hey, he was part of that big trade that brought Justin Falk to St. Louis, and then Jake Wallman found his game in Detroit, and then because they needed to pay Mort Seider and Lucas Raymond, he was part of a cap clearing trade that Detroit got nothing for. But hey, that's the Yzerplan ain't working as well as we anticipated it to.
Sherratt and Hall could have been gone, and they could have kept Wallman. That's a piece of build around. But
no doubt. But the Panthers are. I saw a stat today, and it was by Greg Harvey, of where the Panthers are when it comes to the amount of times that they've blown out teams by 4 goals or more. We saw it twice in the Leafs series. We saw it twice in the Canes series. I'm like, okay, we saw it each in every round. I'm like, this has probably happened more, maybe a handful of times. It's only happened 3 where a team has beaten down every single one of their opponents en route to the Stanley Cup final each time. And it happened for the early 80s Islanders twice in 81 and 83, and the Florida Panthers. That's it. No other team has been that dominant when it comes to their performances. So that's another thing for the up and down the lineup, the depth that the Panthers have, and the fact that whenever you think about the amount of the different style of players that the Panthers have, the Panthers have the 2 defensive forwards on the top line, and Sam Reinhart and Alexander Barkov, and then Carter Verhaeghe as that shooting threat. Same thing with Anton Lundell and Etu Luostarinen, except as the other winger, Brad Marchand is that guy who is going to annoy the opposition, the enforcer for their team. And then you have all that basically in one line with Evan Rodriguez as who has incredible hands as well. So it's just a different amount of personalities with the forward group. And you're thinking of Wayne Gretzky comparing Alexander Barkov to Brian Trottier. Mike Bossy was the main goal scorer for those early 80s Islanders. So there's a lot of that comparison between what the Panthers have now and 45 years ago, to think that there sometimes thing with this game changing, but there can be some similarities from the past.
Yeah, I think if you look through hockey history, you're going to have a hard time finding really many teams at all that are built and constructed like this Panthers group. It's incredibly uncommon for teams to go back to back, and the Panthers have a long way to go still to do that. But to even appear in 3 straight Stanley Cup Finals, that's pretty uncharted territory. I know Tampa did it, but not to say that their cups don't count, but a couple of those were shortened seasons, so it's not nearly as much like toll on the body and the grind of a full 82 plus playoffs. I mean, what they accomplished is fantastic, but a little bit different. And then you look at maybe Pittsburgh with their back-to-back cup wins. I mean, definitely a dominant team, definitely opportunistic, capitalized on their chances, but not quite the same level of dominance running through the East 3 years in a row. And outside of that, I mean, roster construction wise, if you go all the way back to those Islander teams, between now and then, there's only a handful that really dominate in all facets. I mean, there are teams that were incredibly skilled or incredibly gritty or incredibly tough, and that was kind of their hallmark. There are very few that have all of it. Maybe the late 90s, early 2000s Avalanche could be in that conversation, or the Dynasty Red Wings teams could definitely be in that conversation. But overall, it's really, really rare to see what we're seeing right now.
And then the toughness factor that we continuously talk about with this team. I mean, Matthew Tkachuk had a very notable quote after Game 3 that he says, "If you have to take a punch, you have to take a punch." And based on the voice that asked Gustav Forsling this other question, I believe it was Elliot Friedman of 32 Thoughts, which he asked about not being afraid to slide. And then Gustav Forsling answering that question with, "You can't be afraid to take a puck in the face." And there was I spoke about continuously that slide that Gustav Forsling had in Game 2 that was big on stopping a 3-on-1 transition opportunity for Edmonton when the series was over there. And the fact is that those guys are willing to do what it takes to win a Stanley Cup. And you gotta be, if you're a Florida Panthers fan watching this, you just gotta be knowing that it's the team that you're watching. It's definitely one that's just like, hey, they're willing to put it on the line to win it for not only the team, but for the region as well. So definitely, once again, a great bunch of guys to watch. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we are going to discuss a little bit of a switch with the practice schedule that the Edmonton Oilers conducted on the off day. Is it a little bit of a panic move? And also a little bit of a fun fact when it comes to a Conn Smythe winner on what could happen. We're going to discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Segment 3 here on this Wednesday, June 11th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Wednesday. Myself, Armando Velez, here with Jacob Winans on the show. And so we spoke about how Paul Maurice loves the rhythm versus the rest when it comes to being in this position. And if you're on the losing end, you want to get on the ice right away. So usually you don't do 2 straight days of skating this late into the year. So originally, neither team was going to skate on Tuesday. But with the way the Edmonton Oilers lost, Kris Knoblauch decided to switch it, doing the skate today at the arena. And what Knoblauch and the Oilers are going to do on Wednesday, they're just going to have a Zoom availability. So they're still going to do the one skate for the 2 days off in between, while the Panthers are going to practice on Wednesday at 11 a.m. And I asked myself, is this a little bit of a panic move? And I'm going to go on the side of no, because when you imagine having that off day and waiting to just even get on the ice and even touch pucks, you want to be able to touch the puck immediately and get back and get back in a team setting and just let the mind loose a little bit after losing the way they did. What is your thinking there?
Yeah, see, I thought about this too, and I don't think it's a panic move. I don't. I think it has more to do with the way they lost, and I think it's because if they lost game 3 and they showed a complete lack of effort, lack of energy, lack of intensity, and just got straight up embarrassed because they didn't come to play or bring an effort, then I think I would, as a coach, I would have them have that day off immediately. The first day off, they're going to sit there, they're going to think about it, they're going to get angry, they're going to be pissed off when they come back to the rink, and that's what I would want. In this case, I don't think effort and energy was the problem. I think it was discipline that was the problem. I think they were way over the line in game 3. They were pissed off, angry, in their heads. Panthers were under their skin. And I think if you have them have the day off and then practice the day after, that's just more time for them to be angry, annoyed, pissed off, and get off their mental game. So I think it was definitely a smart move. Get them back on the ice, loosen things up, have them touching pucks, have them skating, and sort of let some of that dissipate and get them back into the right mental headspace. So I think a smart move from Knoblauch switching it. And I don't think it's a panic move. I think it's more a reaction to the way they lost and the mental state of his team. Because the way they looked in game 3, mentally, that would be a giant red flag for me. I don't want my team ever looking that rattled, loss of composure. Like that was something what we saw from Edmonton. I haven't seen them thrown off their game that way mentally, really ever with this group. So I think it was smart to get them back on the ice right away.
I was also surprised when Kris Knoblauch spoke about the game being over at 3-1. Maybe it's just a product of the result and talking about it after the game because they came back from 3-1 in game 1 of the series. I mean, yeah, the Oilers scored less than 2 minutes after the Panthers went up 3-1. So, and the fact is that there's still the question of whether Stuart Skinner is going to start game 4, which I do believe he does. What could be happening with the blue line and the amount of times that we've seen John Klingberg just turn the puck over, which Elliot Friedman on 32 Thoughts discussed how there was a player who texted him that Barkov knew exactly what he was doing when driving Klingberg to the corner and bumping into the referee right before Sam Reinhart scored to make it 3-1. So that's another thing about the amount of awareness that the 3-time Selke Trophy winner just does on the ice, and the fact that he continues to get those sticks in the lanes. That I can't emphasize how big that penalty kill in the first period was when Reinhart were on the ice for almost the entirety of it. But another thing for the Panthers is just the fact that you're playing the skill game versus the heavy game, which is the Florida Panther way, and just what they're doing for their ability to wear the opposition, and also, like you mentioned, get into their heads. That's the thing. And that's just, once again, we also didn't talk about how impactful it was to get AJ Greer back to continuously play that kind of style, and versus Boquist, who's more of a speedster, although does have a higher ceiling when it comes to goal scoring. It's very impactful of AJ Greer getting back into the lineup, and got into the head of Connor Brown in the third period right before he took that penalty. But I found out a fact today, Jacob, where Frank Saravelli spoke about on Daily Faceoff. It goes back to 2 heavy players for the Panthers, and what I want to get to. No pending UFA has ever won the Conn Smythe. And right now, 2 of the Panthers' favorites are atop that list. Sam Bennett is right now the favorite, according to FanDuel. Connor McDavid is second, and then Brad Marchand is right behind him. The 2 heaviest players on the Florida Panthers, they could possibly be a first when it comes to a pending UFA being a Conn Smythe winner. And the fact is, the Florida Panther way is definitely one that a lot of teams are watching and trying to emulate.
Yeah, so I think that actually speaks to a couple things here. One, if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about Bill Zito as a general manager, I don't know what does. Brad Marchand, I'd love to know how many Conn Smythe winners have been trade deadline additions. That would be very interesting to know. I don't have that stat off the top of my head, but I would love to know how many trade deadline acquisitions were the Conn Smythe winner that year. Because Brad Marchand at the trade deadline is looking like an all-time fantastic trade deadline pickup. And we've seen that backfire a lot. Even the Panthers have had that backfire. You get Claude Giroux at the trade deadline and Ben Sherratt. You give up a lot for those two guys, and you win 4 games in the playoffs that year. It backfired. Now, a lot of times you see teams chase a big name at the trade deadline just because it's a big name and it might not be the best system fit, and it just does not pan out. But Brad Marchand is the perfect fit for this Panthers group. He was an incredible addition at the deadline. Took his time sort of getting going. He was injured when we got him, so that there was a little bit of a risk element to even picking him up when he was injured at the time that you trade for him. High risk, high reward right now, but just a wonderful trade for Bill Zito there. And then Sam Bennett, I think his maturation as a player since coming to the Panthers has been an absolute joy to watch. We talk about how the Panthers have played. They play that really nasty, aggressive on the edge style of play, and that's kind of their identity. But it wasn't that long ago where the Panthers could not keep their composure. They would cross that line. They would take too many penalties. They would get themselves in trouble. They'd be in the box in big games. They would have guys getting suspended. And Sam Bennett was kind of the poster of that. A guy who meant well, was well-intentioned in the way he was playing, was high energy, high impact at all times, but just could not rein it in when things got difficult and people were trying to get in his head, and he would crack and he would bite and he would take the bait. Now it's completely turned, and he's the one that everyone that is looking at him as a marked man. Everyone wants to lay a hit on him. Everyone wants to draw a penalty with him, and everyone wants to get under his skin. And he just quietly goes about his business. He plays on the edge. He plays on that line. And more often than not, he's on the right side of it. And people are taking liberties and taking penalties, and he's in their head. And to make things even better, he's scoring on you. And there's nothing that pisses a team off more than this guy's a rat. He gets on my nerves. He's under my skin, and he's scoring on me. And I think Sam Bennett has been the perfect playoff performer this entire postseason.
I also looked up Ryan O'Reilly, but he was not a trade deadline acquisition. He was actually an offseason acquisition.
Offseason trade.
Yeah, that was from Buffalo to St. Louis. So would need to circle back at that later. So wouldn't be an interesting research project for us to see. But once again, Brad Marchand, and just recognizing something of what the Panthers were needed as far as another punch of toughness in this lineup that fits into what Sam Bennett does, even though they're not playing on the same line. It's still incredible how the anticipation of trying to get those three together, him, Bennett, and Tkachuk, but hasn't been necessary. That's the best part about all this, is that we haven't needed to see it. So that's one that is once again, kudos to Bill Zito on how he's continued to construct this team. And the fact is that no matter what happens, whether Sam Bennett does come back to the Florida Panthers or whether he walks, you're going to have an interesting opportunity to still bolster this lineup. It might come at the expense of maybe the blue line for at least a little while, but accruing that cap space over the year, you're still able to still bolster up this lineup. So I'm very excited for now and into the future for how Bill Zito is going to continue to build this team.
And it's a great point there, but it's funny, all this talk about the second the trade happens, all the talk is about, oh my God, the Panthers are going to put together the ultimate rat line. Marchand, Bennett, Tkachuk, they're going to be the worst playoff line to play against. And little did all of us know that Brad Marchand was just going to be part of the best third line in the playoffs that we've seen possibly in the last 2 decades. Just a mastermind move bringing him here. And then the fact that you don't have to play him with Bennett and Tkachuk, you can spread out a little bit of that evil across the entire forward group. And I think that's a luxury the Panthers are really enjoying right now.
Yeah, no doubt for that. But Jacob, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Tell everybody where they can follow you online, my friend.
Yep, you can follow me on X at Jacob Winans 8, and I will definitely be seeing some of you guys at the arena again for these next couple games / watch parties. Let's wrap this thing up, man.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, and see you next week.
Looking forward to that one.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows in the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Steel Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Jacob Winans, and you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day.